the hurricane, the freeze, the losing the electricity in the middle of summer in Texas. These are all small scale metaphorical stories that kind of encapsulate the bigger picture of what's going on in the world now. Because, like you said, these situations will bring out whatever is in people. And I think that's the silver lining of this World War III that we're going through now is people are stepping up. The people who are stepping up and coming out of the woodwork, the story, the metaphor, the story of the ship, and you've got the boat. Who do you rescue when there's so many people? The people who swim towards you, right? The swimmers.
Yeah.
So this is the now, as a result of what's happening, the swimmers are coming out of the woodwork, and
Yeah.
people who aren't swimming, I had to cut them off. I've cut so
Yeah.
many people out of my life. Nothing against them. I wish them luck, but I don't have time for them
They don't
anymore.
miss you.
We have
They're
no
too
time.
stupid to
Yeah, we are
know.
out of time. So
Yeah.
this is it. So I have time. I invest my time with people like yourself and who know what's going on. And it's been amazing, the positive things that have come out of this situation. People rising up, creating miracles out of disastrous
Yeah.
situations.
It's like the remnant has become self-aware.
I said she's going to have "I'm part of the control group" T-shirt on.
Yeah. This is Lawrence's.
Yeah, so is this.
It was just, oh, really? Yeah, of course. No,
Yeah,
this was
yeah.
just a coincidence, too. I put it on this morning, and I was like, oh, my gosh, those guys know each other.
So, and I've got his other one. McAfee didn't Epstein himself.
I don't even
Yeah.
think McAfee is dead.
Yeah, that my wife would agree with you with
That's
that one.
crazy.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
she jokes that they're all on some island somewhere.
Yeah.
Just who
They had to
knows.
get rid of McAfee because they're probably going to do stuff that he would be able to say, yeah, you don't need to like build a back door, I can fix that, or you don't need to like make sure that nobody can lock their phones, I can get into any phone you want. I think he could have just debunked all that.
He was a stirrer for sure. I had the pleasure of interviewing him for my show.
Really?
It was January of 2019. Yeah, it
Wow.
was long. It was before everything kicked off. I remember
I
he.
had asked him, I tweeted at him and stuff, but I didn't have any direct connection. How did you connect with him?
I got lucky because he put a shout out. He put a shout out and said, "Look, I'm fed up with mainstream media. I'm looking. Anyone in the alternative media space want to get an interview? Contact my wife Janice." And I
Yep.
did, and they said, "Yeah, let's do it." Yeah, we talked about crypto and he had this project where he was gonna monetize all the congressmen and all the people in Congress, and he told the story of they were making a movie about him. I don't know if that's still going or not.
Oh,
The
interesting.
incident down in Belize where
Mm-hmm.
someone got shot, and he was telling that story. Yeah, he was quite a character. Um, but yeah, McAfee didn't Epstein himself. Yeah, see,
So clever. I love Lawrence.
it depends where I'm going in town. Okay,
What you're gonna
where.
wear.
Yeah, because on the back of this it says it's not about the science; it's about compliance. Okay, so I'll wear it to Walmart, but if I'm, I don't know, you know what I mean. You got to go with the flow.
Yes,
Are
but I'll
you in
tell
the
you,
mood to stir something and make people think, or do you feel like dealing with it if someone says something? Depends.
I'm out in LA and I didn't think there was any like-minded person around at all. I did not have much success making friends. And I said on my show once, so just my podcast, I used to have a radio show, but this is just on my podcast. I said, oh, I guess maybe there's some hope. I saw a young woman walking around my neighborhood with an Impeach Gavin Newsom shirt on. And about a month later, I found in my like messages on Twitter that like if you don't follow me or if I don't follow you, I don't see all the messages. I get a lot of messages, I don't see them all. And I found this message. I don't know what maybe even like open it, but I opened it. It had been a month old, and she said, "I was listening to your podcast today, and was do you live on this street?" And I couldn't believe, what are the odds that somebody's listening to a podcast, because my show was from Atlanta, and half of my listeners at that time anyway were still in Atlanta, and we're absolute friends. I go on our walks now with her. And it just was great because she wore that t-shirt, which looked like a Top Lobster t-shirt. I don't know if it was or not, but
Yeah.
then I got a bunch of those. He has those, like Newsom's face and Ron Paul's face. And and I just decided, like, I don't always have the nerve, but I did. I realize that now how much value it has.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it's all about. That's why I mean, I know we should wear these shirts out everywhere we go, but it just depends who
Pearls and swine.
yeah.
Pearls and swine. Like
Um
you just can't throw it out there to be abused.
I went to last weekend, I went to the most redneck bar you can imagine. I mean, we're talking it was literally it wasn't a country club, but it was called the country club, okay? And I'm
This is
talking
out in the country.
yeah, it was kind of like a biker slash cowboy bar, and it was great. And I
Oh
debated.
yeah,
I thought, I said, and again, I didn't. I just wore neutral colors,
yeah.
went out, and I just go. It's a sociological experiment. I would go sit at the bar, have a beer, and just enjoy life because not everybody in the world can even do that now. So I was sitting there, and then actually the guy for the first time, because I go out quite a bit. This guy next to me actually brought up the Great Reset. He brought up,
Whoa!
yeah, he brought up Ron Paul, and I did not bring it up. So I
And you
gave him
weren't wearing a Ron Paul
no,
t-shirt.
no, I was just wearing neutral
Wow,
completely.
that's
I wouldn't.
amazing.
So it does happen. It's very rare because I'd been to that bar a few times before, and people just talk about stupid, stupid things,
Well,
and you know,
I I recently, maybe a year ago, definitely before Biden's time, so it had to be a couple of years ago. I was behind somebody online, like in a grocery store or something, or like a five and dime, like a corner store out someplace not near me, and it was a person who had a Bill of Rights T-shirt on and some like cold dead hands thing on the back, and I was like, that's probably my kind of guy. And then he had a MAGA hat on, and I was like, Trump does not defend the Bill of Rights.
yeah,
Like
almost there. You
yeah,
almost had
and
it.
then you can't. There's no talking to those people. There's just no. It's. I don't mean there's no talking to them. I mean they don't. They will not appreciate if you try to point out, like, I'm on your side, but that guy isn't doing what you think he's doing. They just think you're a hater.
Yeah, my favorite, and I've seen this about 4 times. Again, I'm out in rural East Texas. Is when you see on these trucks back the blue, okay, sticker, and then "Don't tread on me" on the
Yeah.
same vehicle.
Wow.
I just want to go up to them and say, "Dude, you're confused. It's
The
either one
blue is
or the
treading on
other."
you.
Yeah, it's either one or the other, man.
Treading on you.
I don't know. Good, Monica. We are rolling. This is great. I'm going to introduce you though. Okay.
Oh, okay. I thought
All
you would.
right.
Sometimes people just slide right in, and
Yeah.
I'm
Well, I
I'm
I do
fine with it.
both. I do both.
Whatever you like.
All right. So, everybody, Chris McMillan here. This is another episode of TruthConduit.com. I'm with the one and only Monica Perez. Finally, I've got her on for a chat. She is a political talk show host along with Brad Binkley. Together, they do what's called the Drive Time News Blast at the Propaganda Report. And they give an in depth analysis of the latest headlines from a perspective of truth and liberty. So, Monica, I it was great seeing you on Grand Theft World last week. I was there at the beginning, and then I had to go because my kids.
That's
It's
a
like,
long show.
yeah,
I don't know if you can wait. You can hang around there the whole. I don't know how those guys do it. I don't know how those guys do it.
yeah. Richard Grove has got
Yeah,
so much energy
he's a
between
marathoner.
doing that. He does that on Sunday night plus autonomy Friday nights. Now we're in between seasons now, but that is from in my timeline we start about 7:45, and then I will turn the computer off at 3 in the morning. That's Friday night.
Wow, that's
Yeah, and that's and not
crazy.
always
Wow.
at 3 in the morning. Sometimes it could be a little bit before that, sometimes a little bit after. But it doesn't matter. The students who can't last that long or miss it or whatever, the replay's usually up the next day or the
Oh,
day after.
nice.
And that's our buddy Lawrence. Lawrence Driggs
Oh, he
gets
does that
that
one.
up. Yeah, yeah.
Love Lawrence.
So, but yeah, those guys have got a lot of energy. So, you've I've been dying to ask you. I'm sure you've said it. I'm sure you've talked
Uh-oh.
about it on your show. I'm just curious. It's a simple question.
Oh.
Why? Why did you do it?
Why did I enter into this world of thankless?
No. Why did you move to California from Georgia?
Because podcasting or even the radio show I had does not pay the bills. And when you live in Atlanta, if the person who pays the bills doesn't have a job anymore, the chances of you getting another one in Atlanta aren't as big as if you go to New York or LA. So my husband cast a broad net and he got a great job, and we had to move. But I feel like my line in the sand is we're renting. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
We're renting. My kids are finishing high school here, and then I don't know what'll happen. I mean, he's very happy in his job, but we just don't, LA is just not right for us, especially now. It's like the worst.
Yeah,
It's
because
the
I was
worst time.
surprised.
And
Okay, I didn't.
I hate the chemtrails too, because the chemtrails are kind of ruin the weather. Like they cause the droughts and the fires. I don't know if you're down that rabbit hole, but
Oh,
it
yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
take long to see them. Once you see them, you're just like,
No, I mean, Monica, obviously I know you a lot better than you know me because I've been listening to your show a long time.
but
But
we
you
were
and
on the
I,
Zoom call together. We've had interactions.
yes, yes. But I mean, yeah, we are pretty much on
On the
the
same
same
page.
down the same rabbit holes. In fact, the geoengineering was the beginning of my journey down the rabbit hole. It was 2010, and I was pushing my
Oh,
newly born baby son across the street. I was in Valencia, Spain. I lived in Spain for a long time,
oh,
and I looked up and it was tic tac toe in the sky, and that
yeah,
kind of. Now I was already kind of down the rabbit hole. I knew about 9/11, and I had started. I was aware of Infowars, and given where it's due, he was covering topics that
yeah,
nobody else was at the
totally.
time. But anyway, interesting about that about Los Angeles doesn't surprise me. So I mean, you were in Georgia for forever. Are you
Yeah.
from Georgia originally?
No, I'm from my family, my heritage is Brooklyn, but I
Okay.
grew up in Rockland County, which is outside of the city. But I'm the youngest of nine. So they thought I was a hayseed growing up like one county out of the city
Yeah.
because they were such Brooklynites. But yeah, my husband's from Texas. I lived in California before, but when I worked in New York and a little bit in Texas. I had my kids in Texas and we moved around a bit. And then we landed in Atlanta for my husband's job. And I happened to become acquainted with a radio producer. And I was in banking. I had absolutely I was wanted to go back to work eventually, but still like doing money stuff because I knew at a young age that you can make a lot of money doing that. And
Yeah.
I never did. And actually it was fine because my oldest son has Down syndrome and I love him. He's awesome. But it's you can't it's I don't even like to leave all day with my dogs, like the last thing I would never have been able to like really go back to work. And so this I thought was like kind of a part-time thing to do this weekend show at WSB. And it just took a lot of time because it was really hard to like every single people were there because they were listening to Rush all week. And I really liked Rush. I didn't the way I talked about Rush is like half the time I disagree with him and the other half the time he's lying.
Yeah. That's good.
So
Yeah.
like his libertarian neocon thing, it's like the neocon I don't believe in, and libertarian is just to like convince people that you believe in freedom and Bill of Rights and everything. But I still liked him. But unless he said something like, because he would say conspiracy type things once in a while, like, the progressive tax rate is to keep the upper middle class down, like, the powerful, the bourgeoisie,
Oh, I
like
didn't
that
realize that. Yeah. I didn't
revolt.
know that about Rush.
But he just said it like once, but I was like, I say that all the time. And then my
Yeah.
mother's like, yeah, it's true. I was like, I've been saying that the whole time, and you only think it's true because Rush said it. It's just like, yeah, that's right. So people would listen to Rush, and it wouldn't be the worst for me, but all the neocon stuff, I would really have to do my homework beyond. I mean, it would take me days to prepare for a show, but I was there for a long time in Atlanta, as long as my show is 8.5 years. And then a lot of things changed at that time, which was like the whole, I got frog marched out of that place when it got taken over, when my husband got a new job, when my boss retired, the guy who had really held my hand and used to work on Art Bell's show, and he just loved me, taught me everything that I could learn from him. And then so I had already kind of had thought about it because I knew that it was getting taken over by somebody else and that my boss was retiring. So that's when Binkley, who was like my sidekick on that show, we started. I mean, I had been basically training for 8.5 years to have a full-time show. Like that's how they did it. The guy in the slot before me was there for 13 years before he had a full-time show. It was a really big radio station, and that's just the way it worked.
But it was something to do with the CDC, wasn't it? That
I
you,
think so.
yeah.
I think so because the CDC is in Atlanta. So there were like 3 or 4 things that we hit on that were really sensitive to those people. And I got a new executive producer who was awesome, and he just loved the podcast that Binkley and I were doing, and he was just like, bring it, bring it. And I was like, I don't think so. And he's like, bring it. So I would have said most of the stuff anyway, but like in that last show, I was like, everybody knows 9/11's an inside job, like not everybody knows that, by the way.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Exactly. So, but the 4 things that Binkley always laughs, like all the things I hit, it was like Boston Marathon bombing, 9/11, all that. So I basically just listed all the stuff. But the stuff that we really hit hard on was Epstein. Binkley was way ahead of Epstein, and the Apollo, who bought the radio station. I mean, I doubt that they were really listening, but the head of Apollo stepped down because of association with Epstein. So that was a big thing that we were way ahead of and hit really hard. Stacey Abrams, Binkley again, like just exposed something really serious about her that nobody else picked up on. And I think that they could have if they wanted to, but they didn't want to. I think that they were giving her softballs. So that was a big thing. I had a very long relationship with Garland Favorito, who was the election integrity activist, one of the only guests I ever had on my show. It was not a guest driven show, but Event 201, which was in October, I got taken off in February. We started playing the clips off of that Event 201 where they sat down and basically predicted the future and talked about soft power, talked about media manipulation. I actually stopped playing the clips on the air that day because it sounded like a War of the Worlds thing. They were like, if you get too close to somebody, you're going to die. And I was like, wait, this sounds like a news report because COVID had already started to emerge. And I said, it's bull because Event 201 is this, it's Johns Hopkins. It had the CDC head there. It had the CDC of China there. And this was in Atlanta. And I'll tell you, in all the time that I was on the show, the air, and I had so many hot topics. The only one, he said, if my boss said, I just cannot believe that I don't get more complaints about you. He liked complaints. He thought they were good.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, what is it? No news is, or no, there's no such thing as bad publicity, right?
yeah. And he just thought the whole essence of talk radio is that you fire people up or they fire you up. So, and I didn't like conflict, but I just by my nature, it pissed people off because they didn't want the scales pulled from their eyes. And the only other time I had really gotten some serious complaints was when I was just allowing someone to tell people about it was Del Bigtree's first or second, I think it was 2016, one of his like Vaxxed 2 or something like that. And it was so they were debuting that or having a one night only. And I was talking about it on the air because somebody asked to chime in, and my boss said that was the one time I got, and people would call in and they're just like, shut up. And I thought it's because the CDC is there and everybody listening basically knows somebody, or a lot of people listening, they didn't need spies. They just turned on the radio and they could hear me, and it threatened their jobs or their worldview, or they just knew that this girl had to shut up.
You had the CDC right in your backyard, I remember. And what you were saying about Stacey Abrams and all that I remember as a result of your show, every time I see her on the news, I get the shivers.
Yeah.
No,
I know. I mean, and you can
credit
tell
to you guys. You guys nail it.
Yeah.
You guys do such a good job of seeing, discerning fact from fiction and looking at the patterns, and you're usually right about the what direction things are going, you know?
Yeah, I think we've been right a lot. What I can't always tell what I feel like these are seasons of a reality show, and I can't always tell. Like I hardly ever know who's going to win the election. It's kind of like the stock market. Like I don't know what I don't know. Somebody's behind there pulling the strings, and they are obviously one step ahead of me, or anybody like me could figure it out. So I think that's that. But like with the Stacey Abrams thing, she's one of those people who, once you realize how well educated she is, how well groomed she was, all the internships she's done, the accomplishment of her sisters, her parents. Then you look at her and you're like, obviously, just listen to her speaking. Like she's obviously, um, like when my mother used to say like Katharine Hepburn or Grace Kelly, she's like, oh, they have that Philadelphia accent, like the high class Philadelphia accent. I just think with Stacey, I mean, you can tell she's to the manner born, or that she's being groomed for
Yeah, I
positions.
was about to say these people have been
Right.
groomed from the beginning.
And
And
it
how
was
many Stacey Abrams
international.
are there out there, you know?
Oh, a lot. That's also, I think. But her thing was also international. She has a lot of international internships. I think she was, if she's not, maybe not anymore, but I think she was being groomed for international, which means that you have to have quite a high level of sophistication, because the colloquial regional stuff is not going to fly here. There, they don't get it. They're not going to be fooled by your Southern accents or whatever. So I think that she can't escape her, like, a really good education. But yeah, I think there's a lot of them. So, and I think the way it works is that there were, like Harry Reid said, it's time. The America can handle a like well-spoken black guy. He said something like that. Remember? He
No, I
said
didn't know.
something. Oh yeah, he said something that was like on hidden
And was
audio or
this
something.
and this was before Obama?
Oh, but yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he was just saying, I think they're ready. Like as if this whole thing is a plot. And then you can see some of the other people who might have been candidates for that. Like there was the mayor of Detroit, there was, I think, a mayor of Boston, and like you can see Kasim Reed may have been in the running, who was the mayor of Atlanta, but he got just um, so much scandal around corruption and everything that he was out of the running. But I also feel that way with like Cruz and Trump and Hillary. Like I think I think the reason I really can't predict it is that there is an element of chaos to it. There is an element of crowd zeitgeist in the short run to it, so that they were literally just, these were screen tests for Cruz and Trump and Hillary, just to see who would be plausible, and then, or who was going to get it, who could get the support, and then take whichever path that is to get accomplished some of the things on your list. And I
Do
think
you
that's,
think there's conflict up there at the top among the parasite classes? I would like to think so. I hope so.
well, like, give me a possible, you know what I was going to do? I was going to see if the Koch brothers ever show up to a World Economic Forum
Have
summit.
they?
That I don't know. I don't want to, I only have one computer
Yeah.
right here, so I don't want to
Have
mess
they
up
been
our
to
connection.
Bilderberg or anything like that?
See, I don't know. Now, I don't think they're good guys. I
No, no,
think
I
they
agree.
they
Yeah, I
are what they
agree.
are. I
Yeah.
think they are what they're accused of being mostly. I think the idea, they're painted by the left as being the most powerful, and there's absolutely no way, in my mind, there's absolutely no way that right the right wing of this thing, to the extent that they don't always fall in line, there's
Yeah.
no way there's more. You can actually see in Ukraine. So Biden, John Kerry, Hunter, all those guys went in. They were doing deals, IMF $1 billion loans. The Chinese investment thing, Hunter had one foot in there, one foot on Burisma. We're talking the magnitude of what they were engaged in Ukraine was touching, if not actually controlling, billions of dollars. But when you see Giuliani try to like parachute in there and get a little, fucking give me a little something off the top so I don't throw a brick through your window, that's just that. First of all, they slapped him down, and he didn't really get away with anything. I really think that's how, an example of a real kind of dispute on the ground.
Or
But
they could just be messing with us. you know?
They could be, right. So mostly I think they're messing with us. I was actually just struggling for a few examples that are contra to that, because a lot of times you'll see people who are having that kind of conflict, what appears to be that kind of conflict appears to be that kind of dispute, like China and the US, yet they're sitting shoulder to shoulder at the most plotted out world operation. I mean, it's not just a psychological operation, it was a political operation, it was a medical operation, it was really an operation of war, because it's a bioweapon, and they were colluding for that. So those guys aren't fighting, and that's why I just think maybe a little bit of small potatoes, some idiot like Giuliani who has a role, and I don't mean, I'm not really calling him an idiot, I'm just like, in the big picture scheme, you get some punk kid who thinks he can, maybe he does a little bit, but ultimately you can almost always find the roots back to Bilderberg, or like William
World
Weld.
Economic Forum,
Right,
Trilateral Commission, Council on
right,
Foreign Relations.
right.
In the UK, help me out here. What's
Chatham
the
House, or the
yes,
Royal
Chatham
Institute for
House?
International
Yeah,
Affairs.
All
So
Souls College in Oxford.
All Souls College,
Yeah, yeah.
is that the Yale
That's
of
no, that at
England?
Oxford University at the
That's
All
where
Souls
MI6
College.
comes from.
That's where apparently the elite of the elite of the elite. You cannot get into that college unless you have a special invite. It's a very interesting story with that one.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is
but yeah,
interesting.
all you're right. It all traces back to the same old groups, doesn't it? You
Yeah,
know,
and you can see the individuals. So maybe there's some outliers, like Trump has that connection back to Tesla and his uncle in MIT and his sister who is a federal judge when he got a casino license that he shouldn't have gotten, or like William Weld and Heidi Cruz both having their names on a document from the CFR called the North American Union, which actually cites in there, we need an organization, and this would be completely unconstitutional, mind you, that we need an organization like the Bilderberg Group that can get legislators from Canada, the US, and Mexico on the same page so they can conform all the legislation to the most restrictive existing legislation. So for labor laws, environmental laws, is Canada worse? Is Mexico worse? Whatever the worst one is, we will have a backdoor to the legislators in the US and tell them how to do it. So you got Cruz on that list, you've got Weld on that list. Who isn't on that list? And even,
I'm pretty
you
sure
know,
Matt McConaughey's not on that list. Did you hear he's
well,
running for governor of Texas?
is he for sure? Yeah,
I think so.
but
Last I heard.
Angelina Jolie and George Clooney are.
Oh man.
They're members of the Council of Foreign Relations,
But aren't they?
So
Yeah, they're. Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, they're clearly part of that the
right.
club.
But
The club.
you have to have it's you have to have your, like, if I always says Julian Assange didn't exist, the CIA would have to create him.
Very good. I like that.
So now where is their creation?
Yeah.
So where is the controlled opposition to Julian Assange? Who is vying for whistleblowers? Who's the honeypot?
I
So
got a
I think
lot
it's
of
Julian Assange.
names in my mind that I suspect being controlled opposition, but you
But
never
I
know.
think Assange is. And I would think with Matthew McConaughey, he doesn't have to be controlled opposition. He just has to be aware of the Overton window, right?
Yeah,
The window
that which
of
is
exit.
acceptable.
Right. So you can move it a little bit and you can operate entirely on the fringes of it, but or they can tell you, he has advisors, they can tell you that it is the Overton window when in fact it is not. So my Breaking Bad example is always that example where HBO, Breaking Bad, they shopped it to HBO and HBO said, no, there's not enough sex in it. And then they went to AMC and
I
it was
didn't
the
know that.
biggest TV show ever.
Yeah.
So either HBO was wrong or HBO is telling people they need more sex or they need more gay sex or they need more teen pregnancy or whatever they want to call attention to. And they can tell you it won't sell unless, but that isn't always true. So they can go to McConaughey and say, or like Dave Chappelle, Dave Chappelle saw it and he's like, if I can't make fun of junkies in Harlem, I'm not doing this anymore. If I have to wear a dress, I'm not doing this anymore. And 10 years later, he's like, I'm not wearing a dress, but I'll stop making fun of junkies in Harlem. And so Matthew McConaughey isn't going to, he might satisfy people and make them feel like the pendulum swings, but the pendulum, maybe that one pendulum, like in the UN, keeps swinging. But if you actually start a thing going, the pendulum swings smaller and smaller every single time.
Yeah, I mean, as popular as he is, I can't imagine, because once he starts talking about all these collectivist ideas in Texas, I don't know how that's going to go down. I don't know what's going to happen here because
Does he?
it's
I haven't been
true.
following.
There's a lot. Oh yeah, no, he's coming in from the left. He, from what I've heard. Now I haven't looked into this
Well, that's
a
fine then.
lot, but he
I mean,
wants.
he's not fine with me, but he'll be
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, he wants to. But I don't know what's happening. There's a lot of people flocking to Texas from California and
See, you
Washington,
don't
but
see that as a controlled opposition right off the bat, that a guy like that who's all Texas, who says things that seem real smart and common sense, and well, the guy's just a softie, who can blame him for liking a little welfare here and there? You know what I mean? That seems like a total setup. And if he's high all the time, then he may not even know.
yeah, yeah.
I like him. I think he's cute and nice and, fun. And I think it would be super fun. I have every intention of moving. I wanted to move to Dripping Springs, and then somebody told me it was hoity toity.
What?
Dripping Springs hoity toity?
I've been there a couple of times just through it. I know it's just outside Austin, so
yeah, but it's still in the hill country, and I thought it would be like a little known place that I could get like 10 acres of land on a hill.
Oh no! Dripping Springs is it's becoming a bit like Fredericksburg, from what I hear. Yeah. Fredericksburg, but there are other places.
Suggestions.
Yeah,
I want it to be in the hill country because I like it's pretty, but I don't want to see rooftops when I'm looking out my window.
That could be challenging in the hill country. I live in Northeast Texas, so it's not pretty here, which is great. The whole. I'm a little bit too close to Dallas, in my opinion, but
I lived in Dallas for 6 years.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where's your husband from? What part of Texas?
He's from Houston.
He's from Houston. Okay.
So I lived in Houston a year. I loved Houston.
Oh yes. So you did spend a lot of time down here. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Yeah. The situation here, I don't know. I can tell you firsthand, there are a lot of cars, people moving from California, but are they moving here because they're escaping, the tyranny, and they want freedom? Or it's probably a mix. I don't know.
Yeah. I've wondered that too. And I had this experience where there's just a bunch of people associated with one of my kids' schools, and they're, Trump derangement syndrome and all that, and all like double masking and just so I'm not stupid enough to I'm stupid enough to speak freely. I'm too stupid to realize that I'm sure behind my back they're just like, stay away from her, even though they're nice to me. But then all of a sudden they started saying, oh, Newsom's running this state into the ground. The tax situation is outrageous. He's going to raise taxes again. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? You didn't see this coming? But I'll say, when it first started happening, when he started having these terrible policies, I was like, the taxes here are going to go through the roof. And I actually speculated. I said, what I bet they're doing, they have 35 million Democrats right here in a concentrated area. They only need like 20 million to keep it blue. They could take those 15 million and put 1 million in Austin, put 1 million here. Maybe they're just trying to push people into those little red cities. And I mean, within months, that started to come true. So I feel like they're literally pushing people out on purpose here with quality of life stuff without really getting through to them ideologically.
And you said little red cities. I'm not sure that any cities per
Austin,
se
right?
are
No,
red.
Any place with a mayor. Yeah, I agree. But you could really, if you get them into the cities, they can really do some damage.
Yeah.
Because especially anytime that this is why you want an electoral college. Anytime you make the voting or whatever strictly by the numbers, you really disenfranchise people from a totally different region or culture who have less dense population. So, how many farmers can you have and still have farms in a given place? So those people need representation, not only because they're human beings who need representation, they have a regional and cultural perspective that's different. They have different needs, and we need them. Otherwise, you start passing tariffs and stuff and you get secession. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Like the thing that I'm worried about is actually what I think is pretty plausible explanation for the civil, the spark that lit the Civil War was that kind of thing where you took regional, you had economic interests where you had one interest, which was an industrial, textile, whatever. And what you did not want was for an outside entity to bid up the price of the rural goods like cotton or whatever. So if you make one-sided tariffs that only affect exported raw materials so that you can access the, you know what I mean? You end up like really oppressing a group of people that you need. Not only is it not humanitarian, like, you know what I mean? So that's why, like with Texas, yeah, so the cities are blue. Maybe the innermost city is blue. But if they get big enough, they can overwhelm from a purely one vote, one person perspective, the entire giant state and all the people there who are keeping it alive for a reason, like ranches and farms.
Yeah, I'm sure you're aware of Agenda 21, of course, and the move to round everybody up into the smart cities. Yeah, what's it going to happen? I don't know. What's it going to look like? My theory, I was talking to Ernie Hancock about this a few days ago, is the one thing they might pull is, and you're starting to see hints of it here and there, are the backyard animal diseases that can be passed from animal to person. That might be one trick that they might pull up their sleeve. I first heard about this. I had a conversation with this lady in England called Sandy Adams, and she's a very prominent activist going around trying to raise awareness of issues of Agenda 21 and things like that. I called
Watch
her.
yourself. We had one of those, Rosa Quar, and she died suddenly.
Yeah, yeah. I met Rosa just before all this kicked off. I had the honor of meeting her in person at it was one of G. Edward Griffin's
It
Red Pill expos,
was it in
and
Austin?
no, it was in Mesquite,
Okay.
Nevada. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, we lost her. We lost a good one with Rosa. Yeah, we
That was,
did.
and I had reached out to her a few times, but I never could connect with her just because I just tweeted people. I don't really try to track them down. I'm kind of busy, but there are quite a few regrets.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I had reached out to her as well, but it didn't happen. But she was a speaker at the expos, and she was really nice.
Right, but that wasn't far long before she died, I think.
No, this was fall of 2019, and
Oh, then I
so
think she did another speaking engagement in the spring of 2020. I think that was right before she died, like right before, like in April. I thought she
yeah.
was in Austin in April. And then in May, she wrote, she tweeted, pray for me. And then she was dead that
Um,
weekend.
well, it was cancer, but I don't know how long she'd
It's like,
had it.
oh, I think it was like 1 month. I knew 3 or 4 people who got cancer like that and died at that time.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if it was the masks increasing slightly increasing the acid level, tiny bit, but enough. I don't know because they tell
I
people
don't
like,
see Rosa being the type to wear a mask. You know, I don't know.
oh yeah, of course, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right.
I
Totally
mean,
good point. Yeah,
my
absolutely.
whole at the peak of the mandates here in Texas, I just every time I went everywhere, and everywhere you go, you've got big signs, must wear a mask, and I never did. But everywhere I went in, I was prepared. You know, if they said something to me, I would say, "Look, I respect your right to refuse service to anybody." You know,
Right.
that is very important.
Totally.
So you want me to leave, I'll leave, but I'm not wearing a mask. You know, I didn't even lie to
That's
them. I
great.
didn't make up medical condition. It only
Yeah.
happened to me
Right.
twice. I got kicked out of a half price books, and another one was Petco. I said, "Do you want me to leave?" They're like, "Yeah," and I said, "All right," you know. And then
So
I
that's a
tore them up
corporate
on
thing.
and then I went to Google review and gave them a horrible review and said these mass Nazis, this and that. You know, little thousand paper cuts, right?
But those are franchises, so they might have not been their own bosses. But that's a great way to handle it. I like the honest approach. I wasn't crazy about Florida saying banning stores from doing that. Although I think there may have been an element of trying to get ahead of a federal mandate by making a state law it contradicts.
Hold on. What do you mean banned Florida? What they
I
banned
think
the stores from what?
Florida said that a company can't, either for retail customers or employees or both, can't have a vax mandate themselves.
Mm,
And people were celebrating that. And I said, you got to watch out, because the day you get a different kind of governor is a day that he uses that precedent against you. And of course,
exactly.
yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I'm an
Yeah.
absolutist when it comes to private property rights. And then, but then I always, people think I'm blackmailed. I'm always looking to give somebody, or too cynical. I'm always looking to give somebody the benefit of the doubt. So DeSantis, I hesitate to go in there, but I fear that he too is a creative
Yeah.
person, because his background is like
No,
really
I
snazzy
agree. Yeah. I
and
don't
then,
trust him.
but I was thinking that the one thing that it's possible that that kind of a state law would give you some like the feds would never try to come in there. Although I think they did have a problem with air traffic controllers in Florida that were protesting the vax mandate. So I don't know if my theory holds up.
Well, I think you and I would both agree that a company, they, in theory, in an ideal world, they would do whatever you want and let the free market decide. You know?
Absolutely, 100%. You do then have to open up to what may be a reality that not only the onslaught of propaganda, but also some, if there are behind the scenes incentives. I've heard like the think tanks talk about how they make tax incentives to get people to have these kind of rules, and then how could you compete, against somebody if you don't have that rule, and then therefore access those advantages. You know what I mean? Like, it's a problem. It's a problem to die. You're dying on the sword and you can't live by it, and nobody even knows, because I don't know, or maybe lies coming out of government funded research convinces people that going into your store is dangerous,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if they saw people wearing masks,
I mean,
yes, they have
it's a
the right, but
game.
it's a shame. It's a shame that they don't have they have the right to do that, and they should, absolutely, of course. But I don't always blame them for not choosing the stand your ground option, because it could be fatal to their
Yeah.
business.
Because despite the philosophy of the free market and all that, the reality is they have to deal with this. It's
They have to deal with the government enforced
yeah.
propaganda echo chamber. So how do you communicate to people who are literally brainwashed? Like, think of it as being on another planet. You're some
I,
alien on another planet on
you,
Star Trek,
we
and
go
these,
through it every day when we step outside our homes, don't we?
yeah, these weird lizard people come
Yeah.
in and they're like, you're not wearing your face plug. And it's like, okay, I'll wear a face plug. Like, you're very weird, but I need to sell you these
I
brockies.
still can't believe you moved to LA. For me, that is
I know.
probably the only place worse than New York City to be right now. I don't mean to discourage
It
you and all
can't,
that,
is it?
but I
Oh,
want to
yeah, it
ask
might
you,
be.
what is it actually like? I mean, is it not as bad as someone, I'm in, Texas, so, and my imagination gets the best of me.
Yeah.
You go out, you get things done. What is it actually like? Is it as bad, as strict as,
Well,
you know,
my kids were locked down for a year and a half. Year and a half, we were all in this house together, my husband, my kids, and me. It was very, very bad for the kids, very bad. It for we had a lot of issues about the social ostracism from the vaccines. So both in my immediate family and in my extended family, I call us a mixed vax family, because at a certain point, the mental anguish of, especially when you're a kid, the mental anguish of being excluded is just too much to bear. So you have to weigh the damage, potential damage of the vaccine, which there has been some damage, and I could like literally cry. But like we've had to weigh that kind of thing. And then I used to go out to eat. My husband and I would go out to dinner, maybe once a month or something. And until I recently discovered a guy who was literally in the Wall Street Journal for defying the lockdown from minute one, his bar, I went out to eat maybe 2 or 3 times in 2 years.
And
So
he had a bar there. You went? Is that where you went?
yeah, so the Irish pub, it's not very far from it. It's not right around the corner, but it's not super far. It's in South Pasadena. It's called Griffin's. What happened was they locked down like basically like on Ash Wednesday or St. Patrick's Day, something really fucking annoying,
Yeah.
religiously hostile. And I didn't know this about him, and I don't think it was in the Wall Street Journal article, but it's an Irish pub, and that's his Black Friday. He bought all the corned beef and everything. He took all his money. He's got 11 kids. He had all his money and he bought all that stuff. And they were telling him had to let it rot. And he just
Say no. Do not comply.
He had the door open, and I didn't go, but from what I heard, it was like the whole place, it was as if there was a nuclear winter, and then this just, point of heat and light. And it was in the Wall Street Journal. And of course, the Wall Street Journal said, rabble rouser pisses off neighbors. But he was facing, 90 days. And I think he had to do 40 hours of community service and pay a lot of money, but not as much as it would have cost him to let all that corned beef rot.
Yeah.
And then
worth it.
he's open now, and they were saying there was like vaccine mandates and mask mandates. So we're in LA County, but not in LA City. And I haven't even tried to get my hair cut since that came down, because it's supposed to apply to salons. But from what I understand, LA County is not enforcing it, just the city. So I don't know if it applies or not. I haven't really tested the waters. I go to this bar, but you're allowed to sit at the bar without a mask on. So I don't know I really don't know.
That kind of that kind of reinforces my theory that this applies everywhere. The closer you are to the city, the worse it is. Because I've seen it. I see it. I go in and out of Dallas, and I drive all over Texas. I got this little side hustle job that gets me on the road a few times a month. And I see the pattern. I can see the level of like the number of masks and the number of signs on the doors correlating with the further away from the city, the closer you get to the city. I was curious about that. I didn't know if you were in LA City, so you're kind of on the outskirts. So there's still a little bit of things to do. And that's great. You support the businesses that need to be supported. That's
absolutely, that's what we do. And I do hardly anything anyway. I just got into that kind of hunker down mentality, and I'm kind of a homebody, so I don't really care too much. It has been very, very difficult on my kids' relationships. So they didn't have super strong relationships coming into this, and it did not work at all. But we've moved before, and we're very close, and we can handle it. But people are happy. We're not like depressed, but it's sucked, because they're just like, this is supposed to be a high school experience, and it sucks. So, but I do think that they've pushed people out of, I wonder, this is like a deep speculation, that they've pushed people out of the cities because they want to rebuild them. They're too crowded right now to really like tear them down. So then that was one of my original theories. And then the Miami condo collapse, where Binkley was like, this is weirdly coinciding with the infrastructure stuff. And then there's these fires in New York, and there's tiny homes in LA, and Austin had its like homeless problem. I think a lot of those things indicate to me, and I actually saw an article out of Chicago, they evacuated a condo because it was built in the same era as this 80s thing. Now, these are buildings that should, especially if they target these 1980s buildings, those buildings should stay up unless they really are built like crap. But they're just before you could really wire them. So you can't turn them smart. And so or that was true for the World Trade Center anyway. That's what they said the big thing was. It was
Build
just,
back better, right?
yeah. So I think they're trying to clear out the smart cities to make, the cities to make them smart.
You and Brad have built a amazing decentralized community with the propaganda report followers and patrons. I pop into Discord every once in a while, and that time I got to participate in y'all's roundtable. That was nice meeting a few people. You guys do what we call IRL meetings as well. I mean, the people in your community, what all do y'all have going on? You guys, it seems like
Well,
y'all are always partying.
I
I don't
used to
know.
do it in Atlanta all the
Yeah.
time. Like I loved Atlanta because I didn't announce it on the radio because there are tens of thousands of people be on the radio, but and we didn't have Patreon or anything. But I guess it was through Twitter. I would like people would DM me off on the side, and we often, or at least, every so often, we would just get together at a bar and hang out. So like I just know that, and it was funny because we're such a motley crew, just different ages and sizes and looks and everything. But we were really, it's kind of like when I join a new parish, like I was always raised to kind of go to the poor parishes. My parents they were more like Catholic, and they didn't like the people who went for social reasons. So I would always go to the Haitian parish, like where it was in a basement, or Filipino or whatever. And even out here, like there's just a real mix in the church. And it's funny because values, whether it's our libertarian values or religious values, and not even religious beliefs, but it's the values that totally transcend all that stuff, because
Yeah.
you can trust each other and you want to work together because you want to achieve the same ends. And my most important thing for me, I mean, Binkley has to make a living. I followed my husband because he makes a living, and he's always supported me and everything like that. And so for me, like there's a couple of real reasons that I think that what I'm doing has value. I don't really think that waking people up to the truth without more, maybe somebody will pick that up and figure out an answer, which would be great. But I just try to like use the skill I have to analyze stuff. But I feel like what it does is it gives people reassurance in their own ability to critically think. It helps them understand that there are other people out there. So we kind of have a community even without the real life stuff, but the real life stuff is super fun. So I've many people, I would say, dozens of people have told me that they have made connections just through a farmer's market or something I've given a shout out to. And I just, that's, to me, if we're, and I don't mean this like in a totally Catholic way, like the Pope should be saving souls. Shouldn't fucking worry about youth unemployment or the environment or anything. There are other people worried about that. He should be saving souls. And I feel like for us, we need to be saving our souls. And I'm not talking about like so we can go to heaven, although that would be good too. I mean, we need to keep the remnants alive. And we can do that. It doesn't take a lot. We can do that. We just have to have courage. And that's why I feel like these connections help us keep our sanity in check. Because I bet every person who like feels like we do is willing to fight to the death. Like that's what pissed me off about the MAGA people. I'm like, or the neocons, not the MAGA people, the neocons who thought that they were the ones, or a lot of people who would be the ones who would pick up the muskets in the revolution, or like the people who think they're anti-Nazis and they're the Nazis. But I think that we really are the ones who would fight to the death because life, it live free or die. So,
Yeah.
but if you're just so beaten down like me, like eventually, I wear masks into the grocery store. I'm definitely wearing a mask into the grocery store. I don't want fucking conflict, but I do get my masks at Fake Mask Worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah, as James Evan Pilato always says about Antifa, Antifa is far as fuck. So, yeah, and
Exactly.
there's an advantage though. But you moving to LA now, between you and Brad, you can have that extends your community where you could meet up in a, because before both of you were in Atlanta, okay,
Yeah.
but now you've got both coasts covered, and so in a
Yeah.
way, there's always a silver lining to the
I
situation.
just met a listener. He emailed me, or he came to a meetup in LA, and I knew that he kind of lived near my house, and I was just going to that bar, and I sent him an email. I said, "You want to meet me for a drink? I'm going. We're just going to have a burger," and he did.
What you guys are doing is exactly what we're doing in the Grand Theft World community, the autonomy community. That because all walks of life are in there, but it's that common value, that common core principle, the idea that freedom's a good thing, all action should be voluntary, and we know that there's something seriously wrong going on with the world that most people seem to be oblivious to. That's why shows like yours are so essential. The way you guys just break it down. Sometimes I have to limit my exposure to propaganda report, like nothing after 5 o'clock, or I won't sleep at night.
I'm sorry.
I
I
admire
know.
you guys for just basically taking a deep dive into the scariest, worst muck of the world, and you guys do it every day. You
And I
know,
hate the news. I hate the news. I've always hated the news. I only do it for this show. Even when I had the radio show, I only read the news later in the week when I had to. But from the beginning, my mother said always, she was such a news radio junkie. She's like, you always have to keep it upbeat. And we have managed to figure that out, but that took years. And it sometimes pisses people off. They're like, you're laughing and this is so serious. I'm like, look, buddy, I'm going to weaponize the laughter because these people are transparent, they're pathetic. I feel sorry for them. I'm afraid of them because they have power, but
yeah,
I'm
they're
not going to,
parasites.
yeah, I'm not going to let them get me down. And but I got, what else? It would be, I wish that I had a different vocation, but this is it. This is what I was trained to do, and you know,
Well, you
and there's
guys,
a
you
niche.
and Brad do an excellent job of it. I mean, I feel so fortunate when all this kicked off between being in the autonomy community and then that it was what happened was all this COVID stuff kicked off. So Joshua Hale created a separate Discord channel, called it COVID-19. But then Richard, then we were doing daily meetings every day, and then that is what evolved into the town hall meetings, and then that is what evolved into Grand Theft World podcast. So that's how
Oh, I
that
didn't know
started.
that.
Yeah, it was a spin-off. It was the autonomy group that started it, and then they opened. Then that became a whole separate
Oh, I
entity
had no idea
itself.
because I have followed Richard's transition from format to format, but I didn't realize what the
Yeah,
genesis of that was, and
yeah.
that makes
That's
perfect sense. It's so timely. Grand
we
Theft
were
World is
just
absolutely
trying to make
perfect.
sense of the situation.
Yeah.
We knew we had the historical context because we were all Corbett listeners, Tragedy and Hope members, all that. So we all knew this is it. But what is this? What is going on? And in that group are some of the best critical thinkers in there. So much better than me. So I was very grateful to be part of that group and watching them break it down, looking at the studies, looking at all of the research papers, all of that going on. And it didn't take us long to figure. I say us, them. Maybe I contributed a little bit. I
I'm
don't
sure you
know.
did.
I was there, but it didn't take long to figure out what this was. That this was all just a big smoke and mirrors for a
Who came
bigger.
up with the
This is
name?
I think Richard did. I'm
It's
fairly sure.
great.
Yeah, they looked. The question was for copyright. Obviously, it's a take on Grand Theft Auto,
Right, right,
and
right.
they looked. I believe. I remember them looking into the legality of it. I believe Richard came up with
You
it. I'm
can't
not sure.
copyright a title. You
Yeah,
cannot copyright a title.
yeah, and so they made sure it was all cool, and then they came up with the logo. It kind of
But
looks
it's so
like.
true.
Yeah, and I think it was. I don't know if it was originally meant to be kind of a trick to get all the Grand Theft Auto guys into Grand Theft
Yeah, I
World. Hey
mean, that has
man, let's play.
marketing
What's this
value,
stuff? This is real life
but
stuff,
that is
man.
what happened.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the world was literally just, plucked like a ripe fruit.
But I was listening to your show around that time as well, and it helped me a lot. Also, that's my point, is between that community, all that going on, propaganda report, and then you've got Corbett doing his thing. I was sleeping. I went through that phase where we all did, where you lose sleep at night. Here, this is it.
Yeah,
They're doing it. But
I
I was
know.
sleeping well at night a lot sooner than most people. Let's just say that.
Yeah, because you
Okay.
push through to the other side, and I'm ready
Yeah.
to take another step in that. I I find that fatiguing, and I'm not moving towards conspiritualism. That's like a funny little thing that Sam Tripoli says. Like, I'm not going for aliens or Mother Earth or any of that. I think Pope Frank is maybe literally drinking the baby's blood. Like, I don't know. That
Yeah.
guy is like not my Pope. And, but um, I I do find that what I noticed, when I decided to kind of not question, to like not spend my life worrying about the question of the existence of God, I thought that it's really our only hope, because if there's no God, then this doesn't matter. And if there is a God, this doesn't matter. And that's a yoga thing too. It's like the question of the existence of God is unanswerable and irrelevant, because the answer for you here is the same, is that you need to divorce yourself from desire, because you will never satisfy your desire. You can see these incredibly rich people are often appear to be the ones who are so voraciously not only consuming everything, they want us to not have anything. Like, obviously they're not satisfied. And even when it comes, and this is something that I always thought about, it was hard for me to get my mind around. For my mother, she had 9 kids, and she would, like, if somebody got a divorce, she would not reject like the ex-wife. She was like, well, she didn't do anything wrong. Like, so we still have like Christmas with ex-wives and stuff, because my mother's like, well, he was wrong, she wasn't wrong. And even with kids, she's just like, well, if they're wrong, if they're doing crimes or they're hurting people, they should be punished. Like, I would never lie on the stand to save my son from going to jail or something like that. And I feel like there's this, you can get really panicky about the future when you have children or grandchildren or whatever. And again, like, you're not going to do anything about it. The nature of this life is to die. So you have to be able to look beyond it anyway. So I do the propaganda report. I care. I want to keep people informed, mostly to save them from having to read the newspaper themselves. Like, I just
Yeah.
feel like somebody has to do it. We don't all have to do it, but I feel like it's beginning to dawn on me a new hope. And that hope is, as a listener said to me, it's just such a great community. Right when I was thinking this, and I don't even think I uttered it aloud, a Protestant sermon, which I'm like, Catholics are not, like, we're just taught, just like Lutherans are taught to like no Catholics. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm not listening to the Protestants. And the name of the sermon was "Do Not Love the World." And I had just realized that my whole problem, the whole reason that I went through that transition, just like you did, was that I was beginning to love the world. And that's just a mistake.
Yeah, yeah. I hadn't really reached that point yet. Do not love the world. Um,
Because I was raised poor,
yeah.
and my father would never compromise. When I got into Harvard as a transfer student, and one of his neighbors said, like, aren't you proud? He's like, eh. And they're like, what do you mean, eh? It's like, well, I mean, she might come out a socialist or whatever. Like, I'm not into that. Like, he really, really, really rose above. And then when I did go to Harvard, and then like I got a job as an investment banker, and like I didn't sleep on the floor anymore. And I was like, wow, this is great. I'm like, Dad, I know you don't care about Harvard, but have you ever been to Fiji? And he's like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care about going to Fiji. And I realized that he was right all along.
You mentioned, you're talking about philosophy and spirituality. That kind of ties into something I did want to ask you. Um, how are you doing for time? Do we need to wrap up pretty
No,
soon?
I
Yeah.
have plenty of time. I squared my kids away before we started, so I'm wide open.
What is the path that took you down to the where you are now as an anarcho-capitalist? Like, did you come from the left, from the right? What was the transition period? What was that tumble down the rabbit hole, if you want to call it that?
Yeah, I remember the key moments there. My father was a traditional conservative, absolutely detested the neoconservatives. He didn't never liked Republicans. He thought the Catholic Church was infiltrated. Like he was way ahead of all the stuff that did pan out to be true. But I was raised at his knee and I totally absorbed that. So he was donating to Ron Paul in the 70s. So I was totally of that mindset. And then as things got worse, I remember, so I can tell you the year because I remember the house I was living in was in LA. It must have been 2006. And I was vacuuming and I was like, and it was like, I guess Bush was president. And I think he had just signed off on curly light bulbs, some like light bulb law. And I was like, that's it. And I said, okay, this, the American experiment was the one chance to prove whether there could be such a thing as self-limiting government. This was it. It was the Enlightenment. In their minds, this was unoccupied land of incredible bounty. Now, it wasn't unoccupied, and we could talk about that. But in their minds, according to their value system, this was a blank slate with all of the natural resources necessary. And if you just had well-defined property rights and a government limited by a bunch of words on a piece of paper, then we could have utopia, a utopia of those who don't mind sweating.
Be careful with that word utopia, but
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you could have the prosperity of people who are willing to work, a voluntary whatever. So then, and it failed. It failed. And here we were. And I tried to think back, like, why did it fail? It's like, it was Woodrow Wilson. It was World War I. It was them overthrowing the monarchies in the name of democracy. It was them giving us the Fed. It was whatever. It's like, you know what? But it wasn't that. It was really the Civil War. It was Lincoln suspending the Constitution to save it. It was, but we only got there because I think, was it Henry Clay or somebody like saved slavery, like, so I thought you could go back and there will always be a turning point where if there's a seat of power, that power will be used. Thomas Jefferson bought Louisiana Purchase, and I don't really blame him because that was in the I'm not saying it was right or wrong. I'm just saying that was in the nature of the beast. It was possible because this single greatest experiment in self-limiting government ended up in banning curly effing light bulbs, or requiring curly light bulbs. And I realized then that it couldn't happen. That yes, I still want to kick the can. I had 3 kids in diapers at the time. I wasn't looking for bloody revolution, but I realized that it wasn't going to happen. And I was kind of bummed about that. And then about like, what's the hope then? And then, so my dad's brother was a priest, and what a radical priest he was. He was a Rothbard acolyte, whatever. He was I think he was on Lou Rockwell's show once, but I never was able to prove that.
Okay. Is that how you got into Austrian economics? Or
well, he recommended America's Great Depression by Murray Rothbard, which I had on my shelf, but I hadn't read. And then I stumbled upon, I don't know how so I was looking up Lou Rockwell because I knew he was associated with the Mises Institute and everything. And I stumbled upon an interview he had with Hans Hermann Hoppe when he wrote Democracy, the God That Failed. And I thought, is this some like commie thing? Like, what is this? Because I think there was like some communist title like that. And I listened to it and I was like, oh my gosh, yes, self-limiting government is a utopian fantasy, but it's unnecessary. A society is self-ordering. It's so obvious. I had been a waitress. My wages were zero. My wages were zero. And I used to make $100 a night, easy, cash money. And my wage was like $2, but they would take the taxes out. Nobody stiffs me. Everybody paid for what they got. Why? Because they don't want to be embarrassed, or because they were good people. I don't know.
or because you were a great waitress.
But I couldn't have hunted them down. Yeah, and they wanted to come back.
Yeah. Free
right?
market.
Yeah, so order reigns over chaos. Order, we are more orderly. And I realized then I really went overboard with the anarcho-capitalist thing, and I wanted to go back into banking, and I was just trying to get some credentials up while I still had little kids so that I'd be poised later when I felt ready. And I started studying for the CFA, which is 3 years of exams, and it was so stimulating and boring that I would be completely like jazzed up, and then my mind would wander and I would pick up another, Mises or whatever. And I really, really got to where I was very well versed in that stuff. And that's when I met the gal, the radio gal, who just, I blew her mind. And now I've actually kind of pushed beyond that, which is, so I was a hardcore anarcho capitalist, but the way, and I would try to define capitalism in the strictest possible terms, but the way they treat capital now, like fiat money and like the financial capitalists, the way the bankers run everything, and even this MMT, the stimulus, and all of that, it finally tainted the word capitalism for me. And I finally don't want to be engaged in money at all. Like, I think money is bad. Like, I'd be good with gold because it's finite, it's limited, and it's harder to exploit, but maybe impossible. But other than that,
Sorry,
I
I've got to
you
fly.
got to fly.
He's
I
not going away, man.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
sorry,
so
go ahead.
annoying. We had to get Zen about the fly. But so anyway, so I feel like agorism, and it's funny because yes, like how do you do LA? I'm like, I'm kind of agoraphobic. I don't like the agora, but I'm a philosophical agorist because I don't I don't even uh I don't trade my chicken eggs for avocados or whatever.
I'll trade you chicken eggs for avocados.
I know. I actually have lemons. How about that? Can we trade?
Oh,
I
dude,
have
we
a.
could do business,
Oh
man.
my gosh! I have Meyer lemons. I have lemons. I have limes. I have oranges. So there's so much. So I feel like we almost have a. And my father felt this way too. I had a garage full of dried food growing up. He felt it was morally important for a father to, I mean, have guns and food, gold guns and a getaway. And he was poor. Like we had no surplus, but we didn't have a car in the garage. We had food in the garage. He had
Well,
9
what do
kids.
you mean you were against the agora, but you were
Oh,
philosophically
I'm
an
just afraid.
agorist?
Agoraphobia.
Yeah.
Agoraphobia is when you hate to go to the mall.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Fucking
Sorry,
hate
I knew
going to the
that.
mall.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm an agoraphobic
Fear of open
agorist.
spaces
Yeah,
is
I don't really
agoraphobia.
have I don't really have
Yeah,
agoraphobia, but
gotcha.
I hate shopping. I don't like public places. I hate buffets. So I'm not like out there in the world so much, but I do feel like it's morally correct to be able to take care of, like, this was something I really got wrong, and that you should be able to do those things, and that at the same time we do live in the world. So I caution against believing in somebody or taking advice of somebody who tells you to just drop out. I think actually there's a Catholic thing called the Benedict option or the Benedictine option, which is about like having a little community, totally off the grid, but you're not, if they come to kill your chickens and take your guns, which are things they are going to, are
Yeah,
hoping
this is
to
a
be able to
possible
do.
scenario. Yep.
Yeah, you need to be aware that it's coming. You should probably be at City Hall every single week or month or year or wherever it is, and just say like, I just so you know, folks, what you're talking about sounds like you're going to try to take the guns that I use to protect my chickens and the four corners of my yard. You've got to stay connected in that, because the entire earth is covered. I bet every inch of this earth has a government that lays claim to the land. So you're going to have a fight on your hands if push comes to shove. You've got to stay connected with that as well.
That's exactly what Ernie Hancock was saying the other day. The same thing. He's like, you've got to go to the city hall every day. He said he's doing it for his
This is
grandchildren.
why
Yeah.
I don't listen to podcasts, because I'm sure everybody has, nothing I say is absolutely original, but I won't be able to think if I listen
Well, we're all
you know,
on the same page. This is
yeah,
like, as
that's
you said, the
fantastic. I
values
love
that
it.
bring us all together,
Yeah,
these overlying communities. He's got his
totally.
own
I love that. That's
decentralized
what I like.
community.
Let's
Um,
connect with each other.
this fly, sorry. It's
Yeah,
really like
what's up with that?
it's landing on my
Maybe
face, man. Hold on, hold on. Oh, I got it. Or did I?
no
Well,
way.
yeah, I think I did.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's freezing here, but we've got all, the house is warm. So suddenly I've got all these
Yeah,
flies. I don't
yeah.
know.
You need a fly swatter, or as my kids would say, a fly swapper.
um,
Where's the fly swapper? The swapper.
so, Monica, what's on your plate right now? What are you guys working on? What are the goals for 2022? The propaganda report. What do you guys got going on?
Well, we are on 3 different platforms, and I did that because they all have different purposes. So Rockfin is just a fantastic platform where you can listen to a lot of other people's shows, including Grand Theft World. I
And
just
you can
love
get tips on
Rockfin.
Rockfan. Woohoo!
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
I don't we don't play. I think you have to do a lot of live stuff for that, but I just love Rockfin. It's just so much bang for the buck. I love the community there. I like my patron community is like the first and my first love, and they allow the RSS feed. So I'm never leaving that. They give you a premium RSS feed, and then we just joined Locals, which is it's kind of like your own private Twitter, and it's really that's propreport.locals.com. That's really nice. So what I want to do is kind of build the communities in those places, and I'll figure out a way to like make package deals and stuff. I'm not looking for 3 different revenue streams at all. I wish it was all in one place, but it's not. So I'm not looking for that at all, but I want to pull that together. And then uh one thing I really want to improve the show. So we do a 30-minute news show, and then if you're a subscriber, you get at least 50 minutes. It's usually an hour. And I'm really trying to point to something positive. I've kind of lost the thread with that because I had 2 goals for the beginning of the year, and that's too many. You can only have one priority. A priority is a priority. So the other thing was I want to do a deep dive every day, which is a lot of work because I want to distill in 5 minutes. I want to crack the code on one thing that's happening in the headlines that day. So I've been doing Ukraine. Ukraine got a double header, but I did a lot of work on Ukraine in the past. So I brought a lot of insight into it. And when I did the show yesterday, I basically predicted what was going to be in the news today, not meaning to, but like then they were popping out. The CIA went first, and it's about the gas and all this kind of stuff. So I've been trying to dig really deep in the story. So I really want to level up the show so that it's not just the news of the day, but like it's what my boss taught me so much, and I'm still trying to absorb it all. He said, every time you do a show, you should know that people who are listening are going to go at home, and at dinner that night, they're going to say, do you know what I heard on the Monica Perez show today? And he said, what is that? Whatever that is, that's what your show is about. And so I decided I want to try to bring that back. And so I feel like I want to add more value. So there's no big project. I love my interviews.
What about
I want to do
changing
more.
the little antenna that's broadcasting? Change it to a crystal ball. Your little symbol. Sounds like
People,
that would be
oh,
more
that's
appropriate.
funny. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah. And if you get too far ahead of it, it goes over people's heads. But and then by the time they come back around and remember, they're like, oh, that was easy to predict. It's like, it was not easy to predict at the time. You thought I was crazy. Like Ubers are going to be driverless, and they're going to start exploiting like age as a dialectic. Like I had a lot of those.
Yeah.
But I need somebody else to do stuff with it. Like I am busy from morning till night every single day, and I cannot do anymore. I'll like occasionally do a political rally if somebody is calling me to do it, but I can't organize them. There's just so much I can do. So I would love to, use this network that we're building really, and the Union of the Unwanted is part of that. And
Yeah, Ricky. Yeah, you're always on Monday night
yeah,
with my buddy.
people,
I know Ricky and Matt
I
Raymer.
love
He's
Ricky.
always there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. And so I just feel like there are a lot of people there who are active, who have other ways of trying to change the world and do their thing. We know Agorist, we know stuff like that. So I don't feel like I have to do everything, but I am hoping to contribute and to improve the quality of the contribution. I feel like I'm getting at A minus, and I'd like to get an A.
I know in the Grand Theft World Discord channel, a lot of the listeners there are they add so much value there, and it draws the kind of people that you draw are very smart, really attentive. They're every once in a while, there will be people dropping links, and Richard will be like, "Yeah, let's use this." Yeah, I agree. Open source is the key, to
Yes,
just because that's the core of our philosophy. I've just recently, as an experiment, there's so many solutions going around. There's so many solutions for every different type of situation for people who know what's coming or what could possibly come. And I've created an open source Trello board. Now, Trello may not be the best platform for that. My buddy Khalik Sim just dropped a few more suggestions for me. But that's been my latest experiment with there. And what it is just it's all these little lists, and I make different categories like food and water, or crypto, finance, or
yes,
escaping the matrix. And at the moment, I'm using Grand Theft World's newsletter, Corbett's Solutions Watch, all of his, and you just
nice.
stick them in there. And I've recently
Oh, that's
started
great.
adding Ernie Hancock's solutions there. It's just some, that's what we have to do, is just things like that, and keep it open source. But I wanted to ask you one more question about solutions. What would you say? I mean, what do you think? What? How did I word this? As far as solutions go, what would you say are some of the main ones that would be most effective for people right now? I mean, I know everyone's different, but in your opinion.
I guess the things that I'm doing right now, that's all I can tell you. And I am a like very slow mover. I'm very efficient, but like to do new things, it's hard to plug into a full plate. So things I've already done are I started to uh, buy a little crypto, but start to buy silver and gold, and platinum is really cheap right now. So I never owned anything before this year or whatever last year. And I've just, the money I make, like on if I have any, so I've never even really had any surplus before on the podcasting thing because I've just kind of put it back in there. But I've started to buy some coins.
Note to self: get platinum because Monica suggested it.
But it's just platinum is the same price as gold. Like I
Yeah.
don't remember that ever happening. Maybe that's happened before, but I didn't know that. So I met the guy when I was doing Freedom Fest. They introduced me to one of the gold vendors there, American Gold Exchange, and I was like, he's like, you want silver because you want to be able to use it. You want gold because it's a good store of value. You can take
Yeah.
it with you. You could use it if you had to. And he said, platinum, you don't really want for those reasons, although I think that's an excellent store of value also. But he said, it's just right now it's an investment. So if the price
Mm.
goes up, you trade it in for gold if you want. But it's,
Yeah. Yeah.
if the price goes up, then it's a better store of value in a way because it's just the same weight, it seems like,
So
the
you're
same.
looking at a diversity, a bit of everything, bit of crypto, bit of
Yeah,
gold, blah blah blah.
right. So the crypto is, you still have if there's still a digital world, which I think there's no way there isn't. So there's got to be a digital world. Like they are planning for it, so it's going to be there. But I think there may be interruptions. So I like the idea of having some specie, some gold and stuff like that. I also, and we just did a Zoom call on internet privacy. So my next step is going to be to get a VPN. And then the most important thing for me, and like I said, it's like upsetting that there does seem to be a little vaccine injury going around in my extended family. That's very upsetting to me. But I did have COVID, and that also made me like kind of prolonged sick. So I used to have a total confidence, a real handle on how I was going to be independently healthy forever. And now I really worry about that. So I've been kind of doubling down on like what really makes you sick. So I've been buying books that like where people get old, they go on heart medicine and blood pressure medicine and blood thinners and all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to get ahead of how do you prevent that, or how do you deal with that naturally? Don't eat a lot of processed food or refined sugar, or
Yeah, I mean that's low hanging fruit when it comes to health. Is cut out the processed
yes,
sugar, cut out. Argue actually not so low hanging fruit is I'll argue cut out the carbs. But yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, go on.
Yeah, not nothing, not no carbs. I tried no carbs for like a year and it was good, but I think that you can't, I mean, certainly vegetables, if not, you have to have vegetables, I think. But like a couple of things that I think are undervalued is like now that this has been a very stressful time, stress is a fucking killer. You got to learn. That's why I'm trying to do things like mindfulness exercises and really good sleep. So I cut way back on coffee and really barely drink wine at all. I think just it's so agitating. But one unbelievable tip I got from somebody, and boy, has it really improved my sleeping, is an incline bed. Are you familiar with this? Just getting a foam thing.
No, I mean,
It's
it's nice when you're slightly inclined. When you go to the mattress stores and they're showing it to you and they'll lift it
yeah,
up a little bit, but
that's
no, I
true.
don't have one.
But this, all I did was get it was like $150. There's a big piece of foam and it's a 5-degree incline. And you don't snore. I mean, I don't snore, but like if you get
All
like
right,
sleep
five
apnea,
degree incline.
like
I
that.
could save myself $150, and I'm already thinking I could the redneck style. I could stuff things under the mattress,
Yes,
right?
you could even elevate the two, the back legs, but that will put a little strain on the bed frame.
Mm.
So I didn't stick with that, but it like because I know so many people when they get old, they get those CPAP machines for apnea,
Yeah.
and this seems to completely prevent and at least greatly diminish that apnea. So I'm just trying to think like they put you on drugs for everything. And like my son has terrible psoriasis, and I finally went to the doctor and I was like, "Could you give him a celiac test?" I don't know, and he has raging celiac disease,
Oh
and
wow.
his skin is getting
Yeah.
better already. It's been 15 years. His skin's been a mess. I can't believe I didn't figure that out sooner, but I figured it out. And other things that, like magnesium, he wouldn't believe.
Yeah, magnesium's one that helped me.
Yeah,
Interesting about the inclining bed. So you've got a bit of diversifying your assets, crypto and gold and all that. Then you've got the health aspect as well. And yeah, it's funny you mentioned sleep. This is the third time I mentioned Ernie, because but he mentioned the
yeah,
same thing. He says it's so important to
to
get
get a
a
good
good
night's
night's
sleep.
sleep. Yeah.
Yes, it's so
So
important.
has it
And
made much of a difference for you once you started doing that?
yeah, so I used to would drink wine without thinking about it at night. My husband likes wine, and I actually switched to putting a few drops of CBD oil just in a glass of water, just as like a placebo. But I think it might actually not necessarily placebo, but I didn't care. I just wanted a ritual. And
Yeah.
I think it's greatly improved my ability to sleep along with all those other things. And yeah, it makes a huge difference to my mood, my ability to handle stress. Like I don't get that kind of like this at all. But the whole point of all of this is, and I have like all this dried food here. I should probably just have a garden, but I don't. I just have piles and piles of food. But it's my point is that you need to buy yourself. I don't think you're not going to live 100 years in my house with the dried food and magnesium, but I have a pro pure water thing. I feel like if you can not panic. So I lived in Houston when Hurricane Rita came through, and it was 1 month after Katrina, and people panicked and they died on the road in fiery wrecks. They all ran out of gas, and they absolutely cleared out the shelves. I had 3 kids in diapers at the time. It was right before we moved to LA, and I couldn't get one of my kids had to have this special formula. I couldn't get anything. So it was kind of, and they were just like, you got to leave. You got to fill up your tub with water. You got to do all this stuff. And I was like, I'm not filling up my tub with water. I have 3 kids in diapers. I'm not doing that. That was more likely to kill them. And I'm staying here because I called my builder. I was like, how strong are these windows? And he said 250 miles an hour winds. And I was like, I'm sitting here. I'm going to watch it from the nursery window. And I did not panic, and I feel like if you don't panic, if you have that time, I was like, I have water, I have food, I'm naturally healthy, I'm not dependent on insulin or warfarin, I'm not dependent on any of that. I can hunker down, even if it's just a month and I could walk. I could just walk out of the city.
Yeah.
So I'm not ready for like big term. I'm kind of old anyway, so I might have to just move to Texas before I have the big solution.
Yeah.
But in my life, I feel like what would worry me if everything stopped tomorrow? And I feel like I have water, I have food,
Yeah.
and I worry where my kids are, and I have a map in my mind, and two of them are always in walking distance, and I think like that.
Do you listen to Jack Spirko? I always recommend his website, the Survival Podcast.
No,
Yeah,
no.
he's
Is
yeah. I mean, he's been a podcaster for 15 years,
Yeah,
20 years even.
yes.
He's been
Yeah,
around forever, and yeah, he's given some really good talks on self defense. And self defense is not what you would think. Self defense is exactly what you just described. Just being aware of your surroundings, being aware of where to go if this and that happens. But yeah, Jack Spirko is someone else who's got his own community, both centralized and decentralized. So I say centralized as in he does a lot of workshops out at he's at just outside Fort Worth, and of course decentralized. He's got followers all over the world. But it's a
yeah,
very valuable website. Anything you're interested in, where like you mentioned the Pro Pure, when it comes to like water filtration, hands-on aquaponics, permaculture, or crypto. He talks a lot about crypto, and he goes into. I mean, he's an anarcho-capitalist, basically like us. He's always going on I mean, he's the same kind of
yeah.
philosophy,
Well,
and he
I
holds
left out
nothing back.
weapons, but I have a little bit of a special circumstance because I have my son who has Down syndrome, and he's very smart and curious and gets into things, and so I've never felt comfortable with firearms in the home, and I may be able to get my mind around it with safes and stuff like that when I have a little
Do
more
they
time.
allow
But
you to have firearms in California?
I don't. I know people who do, so I'm not. I'm sure you have to register. And yeah, basically, my thought was we just wait until we move on.
Yeah.
But I know that's a critical thing, and I would feel a lot better because sometimes I'm home alone and we live in this fancy neighborhood and there's alarms and stuff on the doors, but there was a time in the beginning of lockdown when I guess it was like a BLM thing, but I really didn't know what it was. And it was just for hours, cars were coming around, beeping their horns, and people were screaming out there for hours around I mean, this was unbelievable to me. And I was telling my kids, like, don't go out front. Like, you think you want to go see what's going on because you're used to everything being fine and oh, it's a parade. I'm like, those people are looking for trouble. And it wasn't a Black Lives Matter thing. It was a freaking post office protest.
Protest. Yeah.
It was so ridiculous.
They were on
And
strike or something.
yeah, they didn't like that, like Trump didn't appoint the right guy. It was something so stupid. And someone in
Yeah.
the actual neighborhood must have had an interest in it and invited this protest to the neighborhood. But it just occurred to me in that moment, I was like, oh, I have no defense. I have no defense. If this is something where they're looking for the Yankee, like I'm done for. And I was thinking, like, I am at the mercy of. I am just assuming that things are gonna keep being fine in a nice neighborhoods, and that is
No, you've touched on an important topic, the state of mind, just don't be afraid. Can I ask you about Houston during the hurricane? What were some of because I mean, not many people get to actually be in that situation. And guys like myself, in theory, I would love to go through something like
yeah.
that. I mean, what were some of the lessons you learned from going that? I mean, how long were you actually stuck in the house and it was all going on in the
I'll
aftermath?
tell you. So it didn't even rain. And this is what happened. So I'm from New York. I'm 17 miles inside the ocean. And they used to scare us with hurricanes all the time. And we would wait. We would wait on the front porch for the hurricane. And it never, ever, ever came. And my dad was like, we're just too far inland. You're not getting a hurricane 17 miles in. Houston's 30 miles in. And I was like, we're not getting a hurricane. And they did have a problem later, but I think that was cloud seeding, Harvey, I think it was. But I was like, yeah, we're not getting a hurricane. And you know what? You have no idea where that hurricane's coming within 24 hours anyway. So unless you guys clog up the highways, those highways are going to be free and clear within 24 hours. I'm going to have plenty of time to go. But it doesn't matter because my house is good and I'm not worried about it. So that was me hunkering down. This is take it up to another level. My brother, who's a truck driver, he was, I don't know, maybe in Tennessee or something. He was just like, oh, you're sticking it out? That's great, because I got some time to kill. Nobody's taking any deliveries. I'm just going to come to your house. I'm just going to come to your house. I was like, you're coming to Houston? He drove. He said never in his life, he was the only car or truck on the road for miles on a 5-lane high speed. He never saw it before in his entire life. And on the other side, tragically, they all ran out of gas. So there was five lanes deep of cars that just could not go anywhere. And you know what they did? They really effed people over, because in Katrina, they were like, we didn't evacuate soon enough. In Houston, so the mayor of Houston, where it was governor or whatever, who made the call, everybody evacuate. And you know what happened? 2 million people from Houston got on the highway, and guess who couldn't get out? Galveston. Galveston is where they get really whipped. It's like being on Key West, it's like you get whipped. And I felt so bad for those people. I was like, you know what? This is what happens when you're selfish and stupid and don't stop and use your critical thinking. I couldn't get water, but whatever, it was so ridiculous.
Did you lose electricity or anything like that,
No.
or nothing? Yeah.
Nothing. It was completely fabricated. And I was like, this Katrina, except, maybe there was cloud seeding there. There was an event 201 for Katrina. I don't know if you realize that.
I did not know that.
Yeah. The exact same scenario. It was very fishy. But so even that was beyond but they were blaming Bush for Katrina. I'm like, you can't blame somebody for a hurricane. You can blame a mayor for causing panic that kills people. Like 20 old people died in a fiery bus crash in Houston that time, I think. But look, who was I? Nobody, but somebody who was just thinking. I was just like, the hurricanes don't fall. And my husband was from Houston. I was like, did you ever have a hurricane here? And it's like, well, I don't know. I don't think so. I was like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they have hurricanes, but it wasn't like a house it wasn't going to be 280 mile an hour winds. That's not happening.
The lessons to be learned whenever they're. Yeah, do you remember last February, Texas was all over the news with that. They went a week and a half with a sub-zero, and it was all covered in ice and snow.
They shut it down.
Yeah, and I was here. I lived through that. Now, personally, we had a blast. I can say now that I've been ice fishing in Texas. Our pond was frozen over, and it was an excellent opportunity because this is how the mentality that Richard Grove just keeps it pounding into the autonomy group is that for everything that seems bad, no, this is an amazing opportunity to learn and to improve, trigger complexity. Do it every time you can, because that's how you're always learning, always expanding. So we're stuck here. We're like, yes, this is a great opportunity to test the systems, to see what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. And I lost a lot of fish. We had challenges, but it was fine.
There was a big blackout. So with y'all, they shut that power down.
You said y'all. I love it.
Yeah. Y'all, which you used properly in Texas, and I did not think they used it properly in Atlanta. Y'all means plural.
Well, you can even say y'all's. How are you? How's y'all's? How's y'all's podcast doing, Monica?
I would say use guys, but they shut down. So the governments, the utility company did not stress the system. They shut it down. So I wanted to see one relay, one transformer blow up before they shut that shit down. But they shut it down prematurely. So I consider that entire thing a government-made problem, because I just don't believe any of their stories. You're giving me excuses why you shut that shit down, but the actual causal thing was you shut that down. But there was a big power outage in my neighborhood in Dallas when I lived there. It was out for weeks and days. I had my little baby, was in diapers, my first one, and my brother, again, the truck driver, George, the friendly truck driver, he came into town to just keep me company. My husband stuff, and we got little wet washcloths, and I would lay it on, because we weren't used to not having air conditioning, so I would lay it on the baby's belly. It was my son, it was Down syndrome, it was very cute, and he was a good kid. So, and my brother said, look, I got one battery full of juice right now, so we got a choice. We could microwave a pizza, or we could watch one Law and Order. We all unanimously agreed to watch Law and Order. and it was fun. And the rest of the time we sat outside. There were mosquitoes and no
It
air
was it
conditioning.
some Oh, I was gonna say, was it
Oh, it was
summer?
hot. It was
Yeah.
in the
Oh my
90s.
God.
It was in the 90s, which is, it may have even been worse than that because in Dallas, it would sometimes be in the 90s after the sun went down.
Oh no, it's the yeah. At night, there's no escape. Even it's 3
Yeah.
in the morning in August,
No,
and you step outside, and it's
it's
like
like being
being in a
in a
sauna.
clothes dryer. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
But
I
that was super fun. And my memory of that experience was the bonding, and you see what people are made of. So when my son was born with Down syndrome, talk about making lemonade. My husband, who I really didn't know that well, when you think about it, the guy you marry, you really don't know as well as the guy you've been married to for 20 years. And it was like a total tragedy for me, total horrible experience. And I never expected that it would be like the opportunity for my husband to demonstrate like what a good guy he was. Like he really honestly did not hold it against this kid. He didn't care at all. He didn't care. I never met anybody like that. I never met anybody. I kind of attribute it to some kind of narcissism. Well, maybe it's because it was his kid. Like, whatever, long live it. I'm fine with that. But we had this opportunity to just absolutely um, bond, like in the trenches. It might as well have been like a hazing thing. And we would never in a million years break up, even though we have like complete opposite styles for everything. Is just so much trust was built up around that experience of just abject need and support and kind of climbing out of that hole. And I would 100% say like that is my number one example of like thinking something was bad. And then the kid is hilarious. And he's old now. It was like 10 years of absolute like nightmarish, like, oh my God, the kid's hanging out the window. But it's great. It's been fantastic. So yeah, like you just can't. Good luck, bad luck. You don't know.
the hurricane, the freeze, the losing the electricity in the middle of summer in Texas. These are all small scale metaphorical stories that kind of encapsulate the bigger picture of what's going on in the world now, because like you said, these situations will bring out whatever is in people. And I think that's the silver lining of this World War III that we're going through now is people are stepping up. The people who are stepping up and coming out of the woodwork, the people who are the story, the metaphor, the story of the ship, and you've got the boat. Who do you rescue when there's so many people? The people who swim towards you, right? The swimmers.
Yeah.
So this is the now, as a result of what's happening, the swimmers are coming out of the woodwork, and
Yeah.
people who aren't swimming, I had to cut them off. I've cut so
Yeah.
many people out of my life. Nothing against them. I wish them luck, but I don't have time for them
They
anymore.
don't miss you.
We have
They're
no
too
time.
stupid to
Yeah, we are
know.
out of time. So
Yeah.
this is it. So I have time. I invest my time with people like yourself and who know what's going on. And it's been amazing the positive things that have come out of this situation. People rising up. Yeah, creating miracles out of disastrous
Yeah.
situations.
It's like the remnant has become self-aware.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Um, Monica, I do want to wrap up. Got to get going. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on today. It's been great. I am not actually a propaganda report patron, so
That's okay. I
yeah,
don't mind at all.
I'm gonna look into that. I because
No, don't,
I go
don't.
into
I
Discord
only
channel and I have a laugh, but I want more. And
my
you've done it so many times. You've saved it for that last that last bit. When the last 45 minutes
yeah,
for
the XR.
patrons.
But here's the thing. I'm not one to ever be like, feel guilty about not paying. My number one driving business or my philosophy of this show and everything, even
No,
my
but I'm
kids.
getting FOMO. See, because because
Oh, well, you should
propaganda.
have FOMO. That's what I
Yeah,
want.
that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. It's like all I'm doing is if you want it, I'm giving you value. If you want to buy it, that's fine. Like my kids with lemonade stand, I'm like, you have to pay me back for the lemons, or you're not learning anything about business by having a lemonade stand. So
Exactly.
I'm only there to offer value. I give a lot of it away free. and I save some for people who want, until it's beautiful. It's a
And you do
real
such a good
organic
job.
business.
I mean, the way you build it up, and it's true what you're saying. You talk about very interesting stories, but the big one, the real insight, you save it for the patrons. I think
No,
that's
not
brilliant.
always. I'm doing the deepest
Sometimes.
dive of the day now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so if you wait until after the commercial break,
Ah.
that's when so you can listen to the commercial. But see, it's
Oh,
fantastic. It's a
that
win-win.
reminds me.
Who will build the
Did you know?
roads?
See this book by our
Yes,
buddy
Howard.
Howard.
Yeah.
Well, I
Oh,
actually
that's
bought
you.
this book with using your discount.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah.
When you interviewed him, I went in. I used this. I used a discount, prop report, whatever it was, and I bought
Yep,
I,
Monica.
and I got the book. And
It's a
as a
great book, isn't it?
well, it is. And as a
Yeah, it's
result,
great.
though, when I used crypto when I bought it, that was the first time I actually used crypto completely to buy some. Well, what happened was it put me in touch with Howard Etienne, and we wrote back. And then I don't know if you've seen. I've had him on my show a couple of times, and yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He's a busy bee.
But
He's a
that
busy
book,
bee.
I've put that book out and just watched people go from 0 to 60. Just watch them. Just like one of my kids won't eat Oreos, and I'm like, what? It's like, haven't
Yeah.
you even read the book? I'm like, I read the book. It's like Oreos. It's just like the Oreos are made of something like really horrible, I guess. But the way that information sticks in your brain, it's just really clever. It's very, might as well use those marketing techniques for the good side. Like I always say, libertarians die by the sword, they don't live by it. Why not? Why
Yeah.
not use propaganda to propagate truth?
And keep doing what we're doing. I'm part of these communities over here. I've got my own community, yours. So that's what it's all about, is us talking to each other and making each audience aware of each other so they can expand their exploration of what can we do. And so I do think more freedom-minded communities like this, because there are a lot of people out there who are freaking out, who are just now kind of waking up, just been metaphorically red-pilled, as you would say, and I can empathize. It must be freaky for them. Because it's confusing, and so they're trying to make sense of all this information. So again, boom, credit to you and Brad, because that you
Thank you
help
so much.
people make sense of all of this.
You too. Keep the faith. All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Walking down the street where children play, for them it's just another day. The future's reflected in their parents' faces, who chose to stay on in this place where they were born, went to school, got married, and kids like their grandparents before them did. Got to escape, before it's too late. Although today I could say that I really will miss the when Santa. Well, yeah, I was right. I knew what it was like when Santa.
You've been listening to truthconduit.com with Chris McMillan. Go to the subscribe page and sign up to get notifications of the latest posts. And check out the support page to help keep it going.
Yeah, I've got a friend in Jesus Christ. I've got a friend in Jesus Christ, and Krishna and Buddha and my bartender.
Have you found that your skills aren't matching up with the challenges ahead? Here are 19 essential skills for success that school never taught you. Get your free copy by following the link below or visit getautonomy.info/19skills.